Hello, my name is Colin Liu, and I'm excited to introduce Jessica Guise, who will be leading our session, What Happens When Schools Stop Using ST-Math? Jessica Guise has been part of the data team at Mind Research Institute for 9.5 years. As a data scientist, she analyzes school-level math assessment data to measure the impact of ST-Math on student success. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Mathematics from State University of New York at Geneseo and a master's in applied mathematics with a concentration in statistics from Claremont Graduate University. A lifelong math enthusiast, Jessica loves working at Mind to help students discover their own love for math. She also expanded her skills through a 2-year data fellowship with Harvard's Strategic Data Project, supported by the Overdeck Family Foundation. Jessica, I'm now passing the mic to you.
Thank you for that introduction. Hi, everyone. Oops, sorry about that. Why did that? Oh, all right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the National User Conference. My name is Jessica Guise, and this session is What Happens When Schools Stop Using ST-Math? So as Colin introduced me, I have been working at Mind for a long time, and my work really focuses on school grade level data and measuring the efficacy we see with ST-Math schools compared to their match controls. So with that in mind, we have a large array of evidence supporting ST-Math's efficacy, how it works for all types of students, all types of schools and districts. And you can find a lot of that at our website. And we believe in holding ourselves accountable, having those repeatable results at scale. So going beyond that one good study. Even with all the evidence that we've had over the years across different school years, different state assessments, schools will inevitably stop using ST-Math for one reason or another, whether it's cost, time constraints, something else. And that got us thinking, is there a way we can show what would happen to those schools when they stop using ST-Math? Would that benefit we saw when they started using go away? So that is what this presentation is going to cover. And I want to encourage everyone, if questions come up throughout the presentation, please don't hesitate to ask. You're welcome to come off mute and ask directly or in the chat. And we will also have time for discussion and questions later on. So for our agenda, starting with the data, which is most important, and we want to really understand what data we're looking at so we can appreciate when we get to those results. And then we'll discuss, what does that all mean? What can we take away from this? So the data. So as I briefly mentioned, my work typically focuses at the school grade level. So that is not at the student level. And I know that can be confusing. We often think of a lot of these studies being student level. So when we say grades, we mean if you take one school, that entire grade 3, 4, or 5 had to be using ST-Math, and we're looking at their assessment scores. So we're looking at grades 3 through 5 specifically because states are required to publicly produce their math assessment results for grades 3 through 5 year after year. So we collect that data and we merge that with our ST-Math schools. So I really want to emphasize we're looking at 292 grades 3 through 5. It's actually 146 grades in each group because we're going to be comparing one group of schools who stopped using versus another group that did not stop using. So matching that 1-to-1, that gets us to 292 grades. So where do those grades come from? We have a wide variety across the country, different district schools, different assessments. So you can see a summary here. We have 11 states plus the District of Columbia. Specifically, those states are Arizona, California, Florida, Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, Nevada, New York, Texas, Virginia, and Washington State. So you can see a wide array of different states across the country. Similarly, within each of those states, have 109 different districts, 243 different schools, each of their own state assessments, over 22,000 students. And then we're looking across an aggregate of all different school years, going as far back as 2007 and as recent as 2019. And you might be asking, why have a cutoff of 2019? For a few reasons, mainly with the COVID-19 pandemic. We have a lot of missing data, specifically 1920 school year and most of 2021 as well. In addition, when we're comparing a year before COVID with a year after COVID, that can skew the results. And we want to make sure we're comparing apples to apples. So for this particular study, we are only looking before COVID, so last year being 2019. But future studies will definitely look at post-COVID only when there's sufficient data for those years following COVID-19. Because as I said previously, one study isn't enough. We believe in repeatable results. And this is actually one of many of these type of studies where we're looking at what happens when schools stop using. So this is also part of that same mindset. So taking all this data, how can we possibly aggregate data across states, assessments, and school years? So the short answer, normalize it. And if you're not a statistician or necessarily a math person, you might be saying, what does that mean? And to simplify it, for any set of data, you can take the mean, the standard deviation, and you can change that into a normal data set. So for each state, school year, we normalize that data. And when you normalize it across all these different states, you're then able to compare it. So we have something called a z-score, and that's the normalized score. And then you can change a z-score into a percentile ranking. And percentile ranking is something much more easier to understand. So showing where schools fall relative to others. So how do we get this data on the ST-Math side? So again, assuming they have their state assessment data available, we're looking at school grades. We're using ST-Math with certain fidelity features. So we want to have at least 85% grade enrollment. And that purpose is we don't want to count a grade as successfully using ST-Math if only a handful of students were using the program. In addition, we also require at least 40% grade mean progress by April 15th. And that date is chosen based on when schools in different states typically start testing. We want to make sure whatever progress is gained with ST-Math is helping those students on those state assessments. That's our metric of math performance. And as I said, we have two groups. So we have this 146 grades who have this enrollment filter and progress filter for their matched year, but then in their post year, they stopped using, so they have no ST-Math usage. And they're going to be matched to another group that satisfy these filters for both of those years. So when we're saying matched year and post year, we're taking 1 year, which could be anything from 2007 to 2018, and we're matching those grades who will eventually stop using with other grades who are using. And then the post year is where we're seeing what happens at that point. So these are just generic labels because, again, the years are aggregated across different years. And we're looking at those math scores that have been normalized from those math assessments, specifically looking at the student proficiency. So taking all of that, we have that first group, the 146 grades 3, 4, 5. They use ST-Math in that matched year, with enrollment and progress filters, but not in the post year. And we are matching them to another group of 146 grades who used STMath in both years. They are matched by the year. So we want to only compare 2018 to 2018. The state. So we want to match within each state. Grade. So grade 3 to grade 3. That normalized math score we talked about. And percent student need. So percent student need, meaning percent of students needing free or reduced lunch. And that is our proxy demographic to show socioeconomic status for that school grade. So I'll pause here if anyone has any questions about any of the data. And if not, I will move on. So the results. Again, comparing these two groups, we can see that matched year have very close 50% percentile ranking for both groups of STMath users. But then we look at the post year, that group that stopped using STMath declined in their math performance, while the group that continued using STMath increased. And you can see that loss of STMath benefit in the post year. So this difference is statistically significant, so we don't believe it happened by chance. And it's significant because we are seeing this across different states and schools. And if, let's say, there was some other math program put in, maybe they wouldn't have gone down, maybe they would have gone even better. But we're confident that seeing this decline shows how STMath was benefiting these schools. It also is in line with our other results that we see in a typical study. So normally when we're measuring efficacy of STMath, we'll take a group of users who start STMath and compare them to a control group who have never used STMath. And that graph would kind of look the opposite, where we'd see our control group staying flat and our STMath group increasing. So these results are actually very much in line that that same benefit they would gain is now being lost when they stopped using. So to summarize in another way, when you replace STMath, you have lower math performance. And when you adopt or keep STMath, you increase or maintain math gains. And we have that maintain because, as I said, normally we're looking at before STMath was ever used to starting STMath. And we always see an increase in math performance. And if your STMath use is going to be consistent year to year, that bump might just be maintained rather than continually increasing. And part of that is looking at the school grade level, again, not student level, whereas a student who uses STMath year after year will keep improving their math performance. But a school grade where we're looking at different grade 3 year to year, we're using STMath the same amount, we would see that one-time increase and then probably stay around there. So if there aren't any immediate questions from these results, we have an accompanying infographic that Colin is going to share in the chat. And I would like everyone to take a look at that infographic and give you a few minutes to look and think about it. And then we have some questions for the group to talk about. And these questions are open-ended. There are no right or wrong answers. We just want to get some feedback on what people think about the study and these results. All right, if everyone is able to take a look at that link, and if anyone has any issues, please let us know. So now I want to hear from all of you. And again, please feel free to take yourself off mute, or if you feel more comfortable responding in the chat. Did any of the data points surprise you? Why or why not? Okay, so I see one question in the chat about the number of states in the study seeming low. Was there criteria for which states were included? So there wasn't a criteria necessarily. It was more about having that data be readily available. So even though states are supposed to publicly publish their data, it's sometimes difficult to find, or it's not in the correct format that we need, or not missing identifiers, some sort of issue where we can't use it. In addition, it's more so having enough ST-Math users in those states, both in terms of having schools who started ST-Math and stopped, in addition to having an available match control in that state. So if states were lost, it could have been any number of those reasons for not having available data, but as many states as possible, we're always including. So I think I currently have data for about 40 out of 50 states, so not the full country. And out of those, again, a lot of them are lost, just not having as many ST-Math users or not meeting those criteria that I mentioned. Thank you for that question. All right, I see another one. I was surprised the school percentile ranking went down significantly. My brain assumed that the core math instruction curriculum would have held it steady, not decrease. Yeah, that is a good assumption. I think this shows the power of ST-Math in terms of further improving those scores for students and helping them better understand the material. But there could be various reasons for that. Do you have a full research report available? Yes, I do. I can definitely provide my information if anyone wants to reach out. I can send out those reports, answer any more in-depth questions at that time. Happy to do so. We also have the blog post that goes into a little detail, but yeah, I have the full academic report as well. Do you have any data linked to the other math curriculums used in conjunction with the ST-Math program? That I do not. Yeah, that is not something I personally have. We might have it in some cases, but I don't believe so. Yeah, these are all great questions. Thank you. All right, those are great. And let's go to the next question. What do you think contributes to ST-Math's ability to maintain or increase math gains compared to other programs? All right, we've got an answer that has lots of ML students and nonverbal nature of ST-Math makes it hugely accessible for our populations. Yep, absolutely. That is great. And students can also access at home. Yep, absolutely. And giving all students access to grade level content. Yeah, absolutely. ST-Math, we believe students can and should try and succeed at grade level content, regardless of where they're starting. Gigi is also adorable and our elementary students love it. They continue to participate year after year. That is great to hear. Everyone loves Gigi. All right, well, thank you for those. Can move on to the next. The infographic highlights that replacing ST-Math leads to lower math performance. Why do you think that is?
For the schools that stopped using ST-Math, did they replace it with a different supplemental program, or did they just stop having a supplemental altogether?
We find that in the majority of cases, ST-Math is replaced with something else, that
Okay.
it's very rare that a school or district would choose no supplemental program whatsoever. So part of our theory for this report is it's not just lack of ST-Math, but it's also ST-Math performing better than the competitors out there.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Thanks for that question. Because ST-Math helps them with conceptual understanding of math. making sense, and they then connect to the more abstract math in their core and state testing. Yeah, that's great. That's part of, our theory behind ST math, having that conceptual understanding and taking away, like we had mentioned earlier, the language barrier, even some of the symbols, and really have that deeper understanding of the math material. Lower results because they don't see the math concepts as well. Yeah, absolutely. If you look at some competitor products out there, a lot of it is just more practice problems or general repetition of what we're already seeing in the core curriculum, whereas ST Math is something different and special where you're actually helping a deeper understanding. Passive learning versus participation required to progress. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, having that productive struggle, having students have to keep trying, keep learning, moving through. Absolutely. All right. And one last question. What challenges do you face in ensuring ST Math is fully adopted and maintained?
My district has really brought into STMath, and we've been STMath users for quite a few years now. So really our challenges lie at the classroom level, making sure our new teachers are trained up and understand and can do the puzzle talks and have that building buy-in. We've started the STMath Champions program in our district. So we've got a core group of classroom teachers that are pushing for more participation in their own home buildings. So having GG walls and tracking and having friendly challenges between classrooms or between buildings. We just had our district-wide math week this month. We do family nights. So it's been great, and we've had a lot of success, and we'll continue.
No, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. That's a great way to have students and teachers invest in ST Math.
Like Megan, we've been implementing ST for several years. I think the challenge we're still facing is really helping our teachers build the connection between the ST puzzles and what they're working on in their core instruction, because leveraging that is so powerful. So that is still one of our challenges, is to get those into the classrooms, those connections.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so important. Yeah, it's one thing to be able to move GG through the game and feel confident in that, but translating that in the classroom or on an assessment where it looks totally different is so important in making those connections. Thanks for sharing that. If you stepify math and go straight to procedures without understanding, you can't think through solutions on state testing. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's so common, even for my own education, just memorizing certain steps and trying to answer questions without really thinking, understanding what's being asked. And another answer, the visual feedback that is given when you make a mistake. Yeah. Actually, these might have been from the last question, but sorry, I'm just seeing them now. All right, well, that was great. Thank you all for your answers and participation. Yeah, so a lot of this we covered just organically, but going back and really thinking overall about this study and what we think we could take away from it. Like I said, we find it's very rare that ST Math is just taken out and not replaced with something else. So not only is this study showing what happens when you lose ST Math, it is confirming that ST Math outperforms competition. And as a result, we see ST Math as the lowest risk, highest impact in math instruction. And like I said, this is true for a variety of reasons that go way beyond this single study. We just from some of our conversation, even previously, what makes ST Math special? The neuroscience of how the brain learns through spatial-temporal reasoning and having that in our games, having kids have that deeper understanding of the material and having accessible for all students, whether they're below grade level, whether they have language barriers, whatever that might be. ST Math can help all students learn and love math, thanks Gigi, and having that immediate feedback, having them endure a productive struggle, but actually working through it and figuring it out. And yeah, we've seen time and time again, STMath help not only all students, but all types of schools, all types of districts. And that's one thing covered in this study as well, that these schools and districts are from all different types of states, different demographics, different assessments. And we're continuing to see that impact even in more recent years. So this study had stopped in 2019, but looking ahead at the last few years, we've seen STMath schools who use with those fidelity features, they recover their COVID learning loss or even improve versus their match controls who did not. So we have a lot of data and studies out there that continue showing STMath efficacy. And as one of the questions earlier about the full report for this, I'm happy to share any of that if people want to reach out to me directly. Are also third-party verified, so you don't have to take my word for it. Even those of us not working at Minds have seen the success of STMath on math performance. And not only that, I emphasize as well for these school grades wanting a certain level of progress completed, see those results. So as always, we really emphasize more time in STMath results in more progress through the program, and then we see higher math gains. And we see that time and time again, both student and grade level, that the more progress a student or grade completes, the higher that math gain would be. And with that, I want to open up one last time for any final questions.
When you say that STMath is a low risk, can you elaborate on what you mean by that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously there are a lot of choices out there when choosing a supplemental math program. And we say low risk, we're saying you might look at a competitor product and they might have one good study and maybe it was only looking at a specific district that's not necessarily like yours or a certain grade level, whereas our program, STMath, has been proven to work in all scenarios across all grade levels, all student subgroups, different demographics and districts. We have on our website as well, like schools like yours. So we look at different districts such as high or low performance, high or low student need, different race, ethnicity, demographic makeups, etc. So lowest risk meaning we know STMath works for everyone, whereas if a school were to switch to some other program, it might work for some students or for some circumstances, but it's not guaranteed to work for everyone.
Thank you.
Yep. Thanks for the question. Thank you all for watching and participating.